Cao Cao intended to send Eugene to relieve the siege of Fancheng, and summoned his generals to ask who would serve as Sanfeng. Peng De immediately stepped forward. Cao Cao was overjoyed and said, "Guan Yu's fame shakes the world, yet he has never met a true equal. Meeting a renowned warrior like you, he will finally face a worthy opponent." Cao Cao appointed Eugene as general who conquers the south, commander of the entire force, and named Peng De vanguard general who conquers the west, leading 7 elite divisions toward Fancheng. These troops were all hardened northern soldiers, assisted by officers Dong Heng and Dong Chao. After the audience, Dong Heng privately warned Eugene that placing Peng De as vanguard might invite trouble. Peng De had once served Ma Chao, whose brother and family were now in Shu. Eugene reported this concern to Cao Cao, who summoned Peng De and ordered him to surrender the vanguard seal. Peng De was shocked and asked why he was no longer trusted. Cao Cao replied that public opinion forced caution. Peng De removed his helmet, knelt until blood flowed from his forehead, and declared his unwavering loyalty. He explained that he had long severed ties with both his brother and Ma Chao, and that his only loyalty was to Wei. Moved, Cao Cao personally helped Peng De up and reassured him. Peng De returned home, and immediately ordered a coffin made. The next day, he held a banquet with the coffin placed openly in the hall. When questioned, he declared that he would either kill Guan Yu or die by his hand, and if he survived, he would take his own life to repay Cao Cao's grace. He bade farewell to his wife Lady Li and his son Peng Hui, instructing his men to place either his own body or Guan Yu's head into the coffin. 500 soldiers vowed to die with him. Cao Cao praised Peng De's loyalty, though Jiasu warned that his fierce resolve might lead to reckless combat. Cao Cao sent orders urging caution, but Peng De dismissed them and advanced directly toward Fancheng. When Guan Yu was seated in his command tent, a scout rushed in to report that Cao Cao had sent Eugene leading 7 armies toward Fancheng. The vanguard was Peng De, who openly carried a coffin and declared his intention to fight Guan Yu to the death. The enemy was already within 30 li of the city. Upon hearing this, Guan Yu's eyes flared with anger. His long beard bristled as he struck the table and said, "All heroes under heaven tremble when they hear my name. Who is Peng De, that he dares challenge me so openly?" He ordered Guan Ping to continue pressing the siege of Fancheng, declaring that Peng De was his to deal with personally. Guan Ping stepped forward and urged his father not to risk himself against such a man. He volunteered to take the field in his stead, promising to test Peng De's strength first. Guan Yu agreed, instructing him to engage carefully while remaining ready to support him. Guan Ping mounted his horse and rode out to battle. The 2 armies formed ranks. On the wayside, black banners fluttered with the words Peng De of Nannan, written boldly. Peng De rode forward in blue robes and silver armor, wielding a heavy steel blade, his white horse stamping the ground. Behind him, soldiers deliberately carried the coffin in full view, a grim declaration of intent. Guan Ping cursed Peng De as a traitor who had betrayed his former lord. Peng De laughed loudly when he learned his opponent was Guan Yu's son, and shouted that he had come only for Guan Yu's head, and had no interest in killing the son. The 2 fought fiercely for over 30 bouts, blades clashing again and again, neither gaining advantage. At last, both sides sounded the gongs and withdrew. When news reached Guan Yu, his anger deepened. He ordered Liao Hua to maintain pressure on the city, while he personally mounted his horse and rode out. Father and son exchanged positions. When Guan Yu and Peng De met on the battlefield, neither spoke a word. They charged at once, and the clash of their weapons echoed across the plain. They fought for over 100 bouts. Rather than tiring, both men seemed to grow more ferocious with each exchange. Soldiers on both sides stood stunned, scarcely daring to breathe. Only when the gongs rang again did they disengage. Returning to camp, Pang De admitted that this was the first time he had truly encountered Guan Yu's fearsome strength. Eugene urged him to avoid reckless engagement, but Pang De insisted that only a decisive death battle could end the conflict. Guan Yu, too, acknowledged Pang De as a rare opponent and resolved to kill him without delay. At first light the next morning, drums thundered as both armies took the field once more. Pang De rode out first, gripping his blade across his chest, his eyes sharp and unblinking. Guan Yu followed soon after, holding the green dragon crescent blade low, his expression calm and unshaken, as if the clash ahead were already decided. The two generals spurred their horses forward and collided at once. Blades flashed, sparks flew, and the sound of steel rang continuously. After more than 50 bouts, Pang De suddenly turned his horse and retreated, dragging his blade behind him as though exhausted. Guan Yu laughed coldly and shouted that Pang De's trick could not deceive him. Though he spoke with confidence, he urged his horse forward in pursuit. This retreat, however, was no sign of weakness. Pang De had secretly hooked his blade to the saddle. In one smooth motion, he drew his bow, fitted an arrow, and twisted back in the saddle. As Guan Yu closed the distance, Pang De released the arrow with all his strength. A desperate strike meant to decide life and death in an instant. From behind, Guan Ping saw the bowstring tighten and cried out in alarm, warning his father of the hidden shot. Guan Yu reacted at once, twisting his body aside, but it was too late. The arrow struck his left arm. Blood poured forth, and the shock nearly wrenched the great blade from his grasp. Guan Yu's horse stumbled. Guan Ping charged forward without hesitation, placing himself between his father and the pursuing enemy. Fighting desperately, he forced a path back to their own lines and brought Guan Yu safely into camp. Seeing Guan Yu wounded, Pang De rejoiced and turned to pursue, intent on finishing the battle. At that moment, loud gongs rang from the Wei camp without pause. Pang De was startled, fearing disorder in the rear, and was forced to rein in his horse and retreat. In truth, Eugene had seen Guan Yu struck by the arrow and feared both a feigned retreat and Pang De's rising prestige. Citing Cao Cao's earlier caution, he ordered the withdrawal. When Pang De learned the reason, he slammed the table in fury, declaring that Guan Yu would surely have fallen had the retreat not been ordered. Guan Yu's arrow wound was serious but not fatal. After the arrowhead was removed and medicine applied, his life was saved, though he could not return to battle immediately. Burning with rage, he swore before his generals that this humiliation would be repaid in blood. Meanwhile, Pang De rode out daily to challenge the Shu camp, hurling insults that echoed through the valleys. Guan Yu remained in recovery, and his officers held the passes without responding. Eugene, outwardly obeying Cao Cao's caution, quietly restricted Pang De's actions and relocated the 7 armies to the low ground near Zhengku Valley, with mountains at their backs and water before them. After several days of rest, Guan Yu's wound began to heal. Scouts soon reported that Eugene had moved the 7 armies to a position 10 li north of Fancheng, encamped in a narrow valley backed by hills. Guan Yu immediately sensed danger and suspected a fatal error. He mounted his horse with only a few riders and rode to a high vantage point. Looking south, he saw Fancheng's banners in disarray, its defenders strained and anxious. Looking north, he saw Wei troops packed densely into the low valley. Heavy autumn rains had not ceased, and the waters of the Xiang River surged violently. After pondering in silence, Guan Yu asked a local guide the name of the valley. When told it was called Zhengku Valley, he burst into laughter and declared that Eugene's 7 armies were already trapped. He explained to his officers that Zhengku referred to a fishing trap. Once fish entered, escape was impossible. Eugene had abandoned high ground for a flood-prone basin during continuous rains. This, Guan Yu declared, was self-destruction. He secretly ordered waterways blocked, boats prepared, and all information sealed. Guan Ping, hearing the plan, was filled with admiration. Soon afterward, a violent storm erupted. Thunder split the sky as torrential rain fell through the night. The river overflowed and roared into the valley. Wei camps collapsed into chaos. Tents floated away, soldiers and horses were swept along by the flood, and cries of terror filled the darkness. At dawn, Guan Yu advanced by boat, banners snapping and drums shaking the air. With no path forward or back and water on all sides, Eugene cast aside his armor and surrendered. Pangda, together with the remnants of his troops, withdrew to a dike and formed a final defensive line. Soaked, wounded, and without armor, they still clutched their weapons. Guan Yu's forces closed in by water on all sides. Dong Heng and Dong Chao urged Pangda to surrender and preserve his life. Pangda flew into a rage, executed them both on the spot, and declared that any man who spoke of surrender would share their fate. The fighting continued from dawn until midday. Arrows fell like rain, stones flew like locusts, and bodies piled upon the flooded ground. One by one, Wei soldiers fell. At last, Pangda alone remained, drenched in blood yet still swinging his blade. Spotting a small boat, Pangda leapt aboard, cut down several Jingzhou soldiers, and attempted to flee toward Fancheng. Before he could escape, a raft charged from upstream, overturning the boat. Pangda fell into the water and was seized and captured by Zhoutsong. Most of Yu Jin's 7 armies perished in the flood. Those who could not swim surrendered without resistance. Guan Yu returned to high ground and held court. Eugene was brought forth first. Kneeling and begging for mercy, he was spared death and sent under guard to Jingzhou for later judgment. Pangda was then presented. He stood tall, eyes blazing, refusing to kneel. Guan Yu, admiring his loyalty, attempted once more to persuade him to surrender, offering to protect his life. Pangda cursed loudly and vowed never to submit. Enraged, Guan Yu ordered his execution. Pangda met death without fear. Moved by his valor, Guan Yu ordered him buried with honor. With the floodwaters still receding, Guan Yu reorganized his forces and renewed the assault on Fancheng. Though the waters subsided, Chao Run, persuaded by Man Chong, held the city and survived the crisis. Guan Yu's fame now shook the realm. As he pressed the attack again and rode forward to direct the siege in person, hidden crossbowmen suddenly fired. An arrow struck Guan Yu's right arm, and he fell from his horse, once more altering the course of fate. Summary. This chapter marks both the peak and the turning point of Guan Yu's life. Through the flood attack, he annihilated Yu Jin's 7 armies, captured a major commander, and executed Pangda, shaking the entire realm and reaching the height of his fame. Yet at the same time, his repeated wounds and prolonged campaigning planted the seeds of future downfall. Pangda, knowing death was inevitable yet refusing to surrender, became one of the most tragic and heroic figures of the 3 kingdoms. His loyalty and resolve were so absolute that even his enemy, Guan Yu, could not help but respect him. One rises, one falls. One triumphs, one perishes. This chapter stands as the moment when Guan Yu's destiny begins to turn from glory toward decline. Knowledge points. 1. Pangda carrying the coffin into battle is fictional embellishment. The records of the 3 kingdoms confirm that Pangda followed Eugene to relieve Fancheng and died fighting Guan Yu. But there is no historical record of making or carrying a coffin, nor of a dramatic oath to die. 2. Pangda wounding Guan Yu is historical, but details are dramatized. History records that Guan Yu was wounded by an arrow, but does not identify the archer. The novel assigns this act to Pangda for dramatic effect. 3. Eugene retreating out of jealousy is fictional. Historically, Eugene commanded the 7 armies and was defeated by flooding, but there is no record that he halted Pangde out of fear of being overshadowed. 4. Flooding the 7 armies. Real event, romanticized execution. The flood truly occurred, but history does not describe Guan Yu blocking waterways or precisely predicting the flood. The novel elevates a natural disaster into a masterstroke of divine military foresight.